Hey everybody, Top & Go Productions here with your M14 set review. I'm Karsten.
And I'm Brianne, and today we'll be taking a look at some awesome reprints from M14, our honorable mentions from the set, and then our top 10 most relevant M14 cards in Commander.
Every core set has tons and tons of reprints, and some of the reprints in M14 are super exciting. And to start off right off the bat is Archaeomancer. Archaeomancer was one of our top 10 best cards of M13, and seeing it reprinted again is really exciting.
Planar Cleansing's been printed a couple of times, but it's a really cheap sweeper that takes care of everything, so since I'm always looking out for budget cards, Planar Cleansing is a nice reprint.
Clone isn't necessarily an exciting reprint, but in light of the new M14 rules changes to legendaries, it's fun to note that Clone has been reprinted, but a lot of Clone's utility has changed in this new set.
Of course, we have some reprinted Planeswalkers, a Johnny Color of the Pride, Jace Memory Adept, and Liliana of the Dark Realms. And Liliana obviously is my favorite, but the other two Planeswalkers are really good. They didn't reprint crappy Planeswalkers.
Next up we have Traumatized. It's been a while since they've reprinted Traumatized. This is every mill player's favorite humongous mill spell. It really just destroys some Commander decks.
Sanguine Bond hasn't been printed since M10. That was when I first started playing Magic, and I tried to make a terrible Sanguine Bond deck. So not only does this card have nostalgia value for me, but it's actually a really good Commander card. I love Lifelink. There are a lot of good Lifelink cards.
While Ricochet was printed first in the Lorwyn block, and then printed again in the Commander product, it's a really good spell doubler, and so it's pretty awesome seeing it reprinted.
Scavenging Ooze is a reprint that not only Commander players are excited for, but basically just everyone who plays Magic because this card's expensive. I'm excited to see it. It's a good utility guy, and having him be about $20 cheaper now than he was originally is really great for Commander players.
Darksteel Ingot, a staple that has been increasingly harder and harder to find, is finally getting a reprint, so that's really awesome.
And then, of course, Darksteel Forge, people are going crazy about. It was printed in the original Mirrodin block, and then it was reprinted in Planechase. And that's about it. It's been a fairly expensive card to find, and so to have it in a core set, I know there's a lot of artifact lovers out there. Darksteel Forge goes right into your deck if you don't have one already.
Door of Destinies, some people love it, some people hate it. It was printed in the same set as they reprinted Slivers, which I think is ridiculous, so that's really awesome.
Fire Shrieker, once again, is another original Mirrodin block card. It's not like it's expensive, but it was an uncommon and it's getting harder to find. It's a really solid equipment, so it's nice to see it again.
Whenever we asked this on Facebook, which reprint everyone was really excited about, Ratchet Bomb came up several times. This card fills in a lot of holes in the color pie. Yeah, so Ratchet Bomb being reprinted, super cool.
Of course, Trading Post was just printed recently, but seeing it printed again is great because it goes into so many Commander decks. It just does so many things for you. It's really great to see it again.
Our last awesome reprint is Mutavault. I don't think we see enough Mutavaults in Commander, and I'd like to see it more often, and maybe now that it's being reprinted, maybe we'll get to see it more often.
And now for our honorable mentions. These cards are all good in specific decks and situations, but probably won't be relevant to all decks and all play groups.
First off, we have Ajani's Chosen. Don't think that because Ajani's Chosen is in the honorable mentions that we think it's bad or not very good. The only problem is that it only really goes into decks that are playing lots of enchantments. And there are tons of Enchantress-style Commander decks out there that are going to love having this guy around.
Angelic Accord is a card that I'm super excited about. I love life gain. I love creatures with lifelink. 4 life isn't that hard to gain. There's so many good cards that just gain a lot of life, and so Angelic Accord will make a lot of angel tokens.
Dismiss into Dream. One of the things I'm loving about what they're doing with blue nowadays, and other colors too, honestly, is giving those colors really interesting and flavorful ways of dealing with stuff. Dismiss into Dream is a really cool, fun enchantment that turns everything into illusions, which is just such a blue thing to do. Just use Staff of Nin to just ping everything, just kill everything that way. It's a little bit too pricey, though, to be really, really pushed.
Colossal Whale, I saw him and I thought of Stormtide Leviathan. They're both really expensive sea creatures. Colossal Whale is good. When he attacks, you get to exile a creature. The only problem is he's 7 mana. There's probably something else for 7 or 8 mana that I'd rather cast.
Next up we have Jace's Mindseeker. And in the decks that want to play lots of mill cards, are going to be stealing instants and sorceries from your opponents with Diluvian Primordial. Unfortunately, only milling the top 5 cards of someone's library, you might just whiff and not get anything at all, and all you did is mill them 5 cards.
Warden of Evos Isle isn't incredibly flashy. He makes flyers cheaper. I really think that flying is an ability in Commander that's kind of underestimated. I really want to build an Esper Flyers deck. I think M14 is going to be what finally makes me build Esper Flyers after all this time.
Dark Prophecy is a Phyrexian arena for a newer generation, in a way. In a format where people love to get effects off of sacrificing stuff, this card will draw you a lot of cards. It's a little mana intensive. Yeah, like I said, if you're looking to sack a lot of creatures and draw a lot of cards, Dark Prophecy might be the card for you.
Lifebane Zombie is honestly my favorite of the hate creatures, because most of the hate creatures, they're really only going to be good in other formats. But Lifebane Zombie, getting to make someone exile a green or white creature card, those are two colors that are notorious for extremely powerful creature cards. I think targeted discard gets overlooked a little in Commander because people think, oh, it's a one-shot thing. Unless I can make you discard your hand, I don't want to do it. But this, they can't get it back.
Next up, we have Liliana's Reaver, and I think a lot of people are kind of comparing Liliana's Reaver to Grave Titan. I think in some ways Liliana's Reaver has more advantages to it than Grave Titan. It's a zombie. It's going to get all those pumps from all your zombie lords. Another thing people are overlooking, they see the 2/2 zombie part, but the big part they're overlooking is it requires someone to discard a card too. I'd say in zombie decks, this guy is an all-star.
Shadowborn Demon is a card that at first glance you might think, oh, that's kind of janky. It's just another stupid demon. But if you look at him, he's a 5/6 flyer for 5. He's cheap. He's not 6 or 7 or 8. When he enters the battlefield, you destroy target non-demon creature. Can't think of a whole lot of demons that you just absolutely have to kill. The whole at the beginning of your upkeep, you have to sack him if you don't have 6 creatures in your graveyard. So, you're telling me worst case scenario, you had a 5-mana sorcery speed spot removal. Best case scenario, you're putting him in a deck that you're building around him? You know, you build around this guy, he's actually going to be really powerful and really cheap.
Next up we have Tenacious Dead, or Tenacious D, as I've already nicknamed him. This guy's all like Reassembling Skeleton, but what's awesome about this in Commander is that you can now play Tenacious D and Reassembling Skeleton in the same deck. You have all these awesome Skull Clamp targets. You have all these awesome, just sacrifice dudes. These guys are great for those kind of decks, and Tenacious Dead is just another card that goes into that kind of strategy.
The other hate creature that we're actually going to mention is Mindsparker. I don't think he's near as good as Lifebane Zombie, but basically this guy is not for everyone. He's really corner case. But if there's those people in your playgroup who are just playing blue or white, and they're playing a lot of cheap instants and sorceries, cheap counter spells, cheap draw power, this guy might make them think twice about it.
Burning Earth is the mana barbs for a new generation. It only targets non-basic lands, and so there's kind of a debate going on about which one is better than the other one. A lot of people will say, well, mana barbs is better because it hits all lands. I don't see why you shouldn't play both, but Burning Earth, once again, in kind of the corner case, I'm the red deck that's dealing incremental damage over time, punishing you for doing things. Burning Earth. There you go.
Young Pyromancer's cool. He's a 2/1 for 2. Those are solid stats. He's like mini Talrand. So if you love spell slinging, you love casting a bunch of spells, he makes you a little army of tokens. So is he anything crazy? No, but he's a really good utility guy.
Colonian Hydra. Most likely the best Hydra so far ever printed. I mean, there are a lot of Hydras where you have to pay X, and so you have to really dump a lot of mana into them, and they're just kind of clunky. This guy you're paying 5, and he's going to come in as a 4/4 with trample. But whenever he attacks, he doesn't just double the counters on him. He doubles the counters on everything. If you're playing any deck where you're playing around with +1/+1 counters, Colonian Hydra slips right in there. Like I said, he's probably one of the best, if not the best, Hydra ever printed to this point.
Into the Wilds, not for every deck ever. I think of it as Oracle of Moldiah on an enchantment. I know that's not the most precise description of it ever.
More ramp and green.
Woo!
Whoa.
Yeah!
Next card we have works really great with Into the Wilds, and that's Spore Mound. Spore Mound, being a 3/3 for 5, common. He makes tokens, playing a green deck. Oh no's, green making, lands come into play, getting lots of Saproling tokens. And he's a fungus. Fungus is one of the coolest creature types around.
So like I said before, I love life gain, and I love all the cards in this set that work with life gain. So of course I love Voracious Worm. He's a bear. You're getting your life. You get a huge Voracious Worm in the process. He's the life gain Tarmogoyf.
Next up we have Bubbling Cauldron, and I just want to talk about this little trifecta of cards for a second. We have this witch with her cauldron and her festering newt. It's all very flavorful and very funny. I like it a lot. Bubbling Cauldron, by itself, is a pretty effective sack outlet. If you have Festering Newt, it's in a way kind of a mini Kokusho, which is very cool.
This is a cycle, the staff cycle. Karsten and I kind of had to agree to disagree because I think it's kind of solid. Now, all of them aren't good. Like the white one, there's better ways to gain life in mono white. But mono green, it's really good because you play a lot of lands and you get a lot of life. And then I think it's best in mono black, because mono black decks are all about playing as many swamps as they can, and mono black decks are all about Phyrexian Arena, Necropotence, Graveborn Muse, Bloodgift Demon, Promise of Power. So having something that makes up for the fact that you're killing yourself, if I were playing a good mono black deck, I would put this card in it.
Coming up to the end of our honorable mentions, Zathrid Necromancer. Zathrid Necromancer is very similar to Rotlung Reanimator. Rotlung Reanimator is a fairly popular card in Commander.
So you have Rotlung Reanimator number 2.
There you go. Zathrid Necromancer. That's perfectly awesome.
Windreader Sphinx, we were very sad to not have it be top 10. I know it's expensive, and it's not the biggest body in the world, but its ability is really good. Once again, I think that Blue-White or Esper Flyers is a really good deck. I've played against Esper Flyers, and you just lose because you can't block anything.
So Sharding Sphinx, all those little flying artifact tokens are going to draw you cards.
Consecrated Sphinx is more powerful, but Windreader Sphinx looks deceptively not that good.
Yeah, and
that's why cards like that are good.
And in the decks that want Windreader Sphinx, it's actually going to be better than Consecrated Sphinx. Scourge of Valkus. That's just such a cool name. I love Scourge of Valkus. Dragon Tribal has been something I've been wanting to make for the longest time, and Scourge of Valkus makes me want to make it even more. He has potential to deal more damage than Bogardan Hellkite whenever Bogardan Hellkite comes into play. He's a 4/4 for 5 with fire breathing, who, when he enters the battlefield, he's doing something. Like Windreader Sphinx, in the decks that want him, he's fantastic. You're going to cast Scourge of Valkus, and it's going to feel good. Finally, it's time for the top 10 most relevant M14 Commander cards. At number 10, we cannot avoid talking about them. They're kind of the
elephant in the room.
They're like the elephant in the room.
The Phyrexian-looking elephant in the room.
The slivers. Get out of the way.
Why don't they look like slivers?
They look like humans. They look like little humanoids
Slivers
or
are
Phyrexians.
So cool.
Yeah,
They're like the Borg of magic.
That style of villain, the slivers were that. And they had a unique look, and they were scary, and they were cool. The new design for the slivers, as far as the art design, just looks cheesy. On the flip side, the good. These slivers don't help your pal slivers, which is, as far as design goes, is better.
And they make more sense to newer players.
Yes, they do.
Because newer players are like, why do my guys help your guys? That's stupid.
Yeah.
If we leave aside art direction and flavor, there's nothing wrong with them.
There are several things that they do for Commander. For you sliver lovers in Commander, you have more options. And probably we're going to see a new resurgence of sliver decks in the format. My personal favorite is the Gemhide Sliver number 2.
I like Double Strike Sliver. He's really aggressively costly.
Well, obviously, he's like probably the best sliver. To sum it up, slivers are at number 10 because we can't avoid them. At number 9, we have Devout Invocation, and this is one of the I'm an M14 giant design with a sledgehammer card. Devout Invocation kind of reminds me of Convoke, and Convoke is a really awesome mechanic, i.e. Court of Calling and a few other cards. This is going to be a very good card in almost any white deck. When we say design with a sledgehammer, sometimes we wonder if Wizards is just like, well, let's just think of the biggest, scariest thing that could happen, and let's just slap a huge number of mana cost onto it. Devout Invocation it's powerful.
Next, we have Less Broken Panoptic Mirror Dude, aka Elite Arcanist. You guys are going, well, he's a 1/1, and he makes you lose a card, and you're gonna get 2 for 1. Yeah, he's fragile, but how many of you are playing Darksteel Plate, Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves, sort of protection and value in your deck? The fact that he's fragile isn't that relevant. Let's stick a counterspell on him. Can we have a Spell Crumple on this dude? Or a Hinder? Vampiric Tutor, Enlightened Tutor?
He's kind of like the Mimic Vat, for instance.
This guy just gets compared to everything.
Yeah. He's awesome. I like him. Next up, we have Ogre Battle Driver. And I think this is one of those cards that is going to be so good in other formats that he just kind of bleeds into Commander. This guy is a Fervor, okay, on a body. But then he just says, oh, and here's +2/+0. Go in and attack. Aggressive Commander decks, Ogre Battle Driver is your man. He's giving all your guys haste. He's giving them pumps. How can you not love this guy?
You don't have to have an enchantment like Fervor or Fires of Yavimaya. You get a body. Most of the time, red, if it's a creature, it's like you have to attack each turn if able or some crap like that. The only drawback isn't a drawback. It's he doesn't have haste. At number 6, you guys knew it was coming because we haven't said it yet, Rise of the Dark Realms. This is another designed with a sledgehammer card, but at the same time, from a flavor standpoint, from a storyline standpoint, it's a really good card. It's Liliana. It's what Liliana does. It's Liliana 1.0's ultimate. You don't have to build around it. Most Commander games, you're gonna get some creatures, but if you do, put Rise of the Dark Realms in the Mimeoplasm. Let's have green for ramp. Let's traumatize someone. Let's get traumatized back with Eternal Witness, traumatize someone else, and then let's cast Rise of the Dark Realms.
What's cool about Rise of the Dark Realms is you can pull off a Liliana Ultimate whenever you want. At number 5, we have Primeval Bounty. And I'm excited about this card. I know a lot of other people that are excited about this card. This card is so cool. Let's count the ways how cool it is. You get creatures for playing creatures. The one time you don't want to play a creature, maybe you want to play a ramp spell or an artifact, your creatures get bigger. And then if you play a land, which green is great at, you gain some life. So in an aggressive green deck where you're wanting to attack, keep the pressure on, and sometimes that ends up making you lose life because then you leave yourself open to other opponents, Primeval Bounty comes in, gives you the dudes you need to attack, pumps them for you, and gives you life. This is everything all wrapped up in one neat little enchantment package.
At number 4, we have one of my favorite cards in the set, Archangel of Thune. By now, if either listening to me talk throughout all of our videos or just this video hasn't told you, I love life gain, okay? Whenever you gain life, it's not whenever Archangel of Thune attacks or whenever she deals combat damage to a player. Whenever you gain life, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So, you don't have to build around her, you can just pop her in your tokens deck. But if you put work into it, if you're playing, we'll say, green-white Tristani, you know, you played your Pelika Worm, your dudes got bigger. Attacked with your Baneslayer Angel, all your dudes got bigger. You played a creature and Tristani triggered, all your dudes got bigger. You've got so many ways to gain life in this format, so if you don't build around her, she's good. If you build around her, she's amazing.
At number 3, we have Garruk, Caller of Beasts. We have other 6 converted mana cost planeswalkers around. When you're paying 6 for a planeswalker, you have to be getting something really awesome. I think Garruk, Caller of Beasts is a picture of that. +1, he digs for creatures. -3 is Dramatic Entrance. And his -7 is so powerful that you almost want to +1/+1/+1 every turn so you can get to his ultimate.
He's part of the Doubling Season Club. When I say the Doubling Season Club, I mean planeswalkers that you can cast them, and if Doubling Season is on the board, you can ultimate them the turn they come out. So, drop Garruk into play. He comes in 8 counters. You -7 him. He's left with 1. Even if you're not abusing him or trying to ultimate him, he's still good. At number 2, we have the coolest card in the set, Strionic Resonator. This card, oh my goodness, I've already talked to you guys about this. You place them into the battlefield, dudes, and you flicker them, and congratulations, you just built a commander deck. So, this card goes into those decks. But not just enter the battlefield abilities. There are triggered abilities that trigger when creatures attack. So basically, this card's stupid, right? This card is stupid good. It's not number 1 because you have to build around it, but not that much, and it's really powerful.
Plus, another great thing about Strionic Resonator, whenever we play Commander, we play it for the fun, awesome interactions, and Strionic Resonator just makes more of those fun stories to tell your friends. And at number 1, Ring of Three Wishes. In a format where tutoring is one of the most powerful things you could do, Ring of Three Wishes allows you to do that even better. Let's go to Planar Portal. Ring of Three Wishes is coming in for 1 cheaper, and it's searching for 1 cheaper.
But Karsten, you only get 3 counters. You only get to use it 3 times. That's terrible.
How many times do you get to use Planar Portal? Unless you're going infinite.
With Beacon of Tomorrows.
Exactly. How often do you get to use Planar Portal? Once? Twice?
Especially if you're not playing a super ridiculously powerful, like, combo deck or something. If I see you with Ring of Three Wishes, there might be something else on the battlefield. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, you're only going to get to use that 3 times. I don't need to blow it up because you're going to run out of uses.
Think about this, though, for a minute. If you're playing Voro the Hulkblade,
there are plenty of things that double counters. We've got Proliferate, we've got the aforementioned Doubling Season. So if you're super duper worried about your Ring of Three Wishes not having enough counters, you can proliferate them.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways to abuse this card.
But you really don't need to. I really like the fact that it's 2 cheaper than Planar Portal. I can, with 10 mana, cast and activate this instead of the 12 required for Planar Portal. So, it flies under the radar a little more than Planar Portal. It's cheaper. The only downside is it only has 3 uses.
But that's not that big of a downside, really.
It's the only card in this set that I have seen that within 2 seconds of seeing it, I thought, oh my gosh, that is a really good commander card.
And that is our set review for M14. This set has some really sweet stuff for all sorts of decks. If you guys have any ideas about cards we missed or disagree with anything in our top 10, then let us know in the comment section below. I'm Karsten.
And I'm Brianne.
And thanks for watching.